tell us about some solutions that either work with Sage or Acumatica that add remote use functionality?
Yeah, there's a couple different areas, and I guess this whole section, there's more than what we'll talk about here today, but we want to highlight a couple different sections inside of this presentation. But when you think about certain groups in your organization that may need remote access, they may not need remote access to the level of giving them access to a desktop via RDP. That might be a good way to do it. That's not saying that they're not, don't rise to that level. But, one group particularly that comes up a lot is, I have a salesperson in the field, and they're traveling around a region and they're visiting customers, and they need to remotely look at customer inquiry to gain, does that customer owe us money? Do they, have they placed an order recently? What's, just getting into information or going to the level of I'm on site and I'm going to put an order in the system for delivery, or maybe I have some stuff on my truck and I'm going to create an invoice and sell them something on the spot. So that's one group that comes up a lot, which is just we have some remote sales force that need access to data. And there's a couple of different solutions that come to mind when we think about that group. One is Sage CRM, which bolts on to Sage 100. It offers a level of information around the customer for CRM purposes, which stands for Customer Relationship Management, and lets them manage opportunities and activities and cases and orders and accounting information that gets fed over. But it's a browser-based solution, so they can access it from their phone or from any tablet, or it's meant for a browser, so it really gives that remote capability without having a remote session needing to be in place. Another solution that is out there, there's a couple different ones out there, and they definitely have different pros and cons, but it's a mobile sales solution that runs on an iPad or runs on a phone, Android or based operating system, but really gives a window to data on those devices and allows people to put in orders and put in invoices and do some inquiry. But they're built specifically for a remote device, a mobile device for a salesperson, and kind of speaks to their daily activities in that realm. ScanForce comes to mind, XK0 comes to mind. Those are two different providers with two different solutions. But again, the idea of that is Sage stays where it's at. There's no change to the office and the back office of what they're up to. You're kind of just giving access to that information within Sage on a mobile device for that group of people.
Yeah, and I'm thinking now I could have called this situations that require remote use functionality, because the second that we hear a lot is that everybody's dispersed, but we still need to get things done. So in this specific example, Jeremy, I'm asking you about purchase orders. Is there a way for the team to be apart but yet still be able to achieve the efficiency with their PO approval processes, submitting purchase orders, etc.?
Yeah, there's a couple solutions that come to mind around this one. One would be a document management solution that POs get created, or they get sent in and scanned, and that scan creates the PO, and that scan and PO create an approval process that's in a solution that's browser-based, that again, that managers, that people in the staff that don't have access to Sage can approve via their phone or via their remote access through a browser to approve a PO or go through a process, a workflow that gives them that ability. There are some what they call spend control solutions. eRequester comes to mind. Complete is another one out there that says we're going to give an interface, a browser-based interface or a phone-based interface for someone remotely to put in a requisition, and a requisition says, I'm looking to buy these items, and it goes through an approval process based on logic of your approval process, which would be, if it's under 20 bucks, it goes through, no questions asked. If it's more than 20, it goes to the manager. If it's more than 500, it goes to the executive. Maybe there's a chain of command that it needs to roll through, and that's all remote. And it compares that PO, based on that value of the PO on your budget within the system. Are you starting to go over budget? And if you are, it goes to the president of the company. So there's a lot of different avenues. But the key for this presentation and the topic is you're giving that ability remotely to surgically deal with one problem, which is getting requisitions into the system. And if you have a lot of people remotely that are on job sites or at different buildings and they're putting in requests to buy things, but right now they're writing it down or filling out an Excel spreadsheet, emailing that, and someone in email does that approval. Someone's got to ultimately key that back into Sage if you're using PO processing within Sage. And solutions like this would just put that all to bed and make it integrated. Again, another solution that extends the remote capability, but is not changing the system in entirety, just kind of, enhancing the solution to be more remote access for that one need.
Yeah, and as far as like a paper trail, obviously that would all be electronic, so you could see whom did what and when, probably, right?
Yeah, time stamping and different alerts, different alerting mechanisms via email to those people, and we'll talk about workflow and alerts here in a second as well. But that gives that ability for communication, whether it be a text message to that executive that needs to go through that approval of that PO requisition, different ways to communicate that information out now.
Yeah, well, you can see where the obvious efficiencies are there for folks in the accounting department. But what about executives? Dave wants a report. I need to be able to get in and run Dave a report, but I don't need a full-blown license, for example. I don't need to be in Sage, that kind of thing. Are there executive reports needed daily that we could find a solution to help folks deliver those more efficiently?
Yeah, you mentioned one that's a pretty simple one, which is paperless office, giving that ability in paperless to out and putting them in the PDF format that are out on the network drive for someone to be able to access. That's the lowest level of and the simplest way to make it happen, and that's included in
attach it to an email.
Just a matter of setting it up. Yeah. When you think about automating that process, there's a couple different ways within Crystal to automate distribution of reports. That's another kind of the next level up. I think when you look at an executive that says, I want to be able to open up a report, sales by region, and then drill into that report to find out who the reps in that region are selling the most, to then say, what are the top 5 items within that region that are selling? And you want to drill in and drill around and really turn the data on end. You look at different business intelligence tools, BI tools, whether that be something like Power BI from Microsoft or Sage Intelligence or different avenues to distribute reports that have a data warehouse behind them for that access to kind of drill in and drill around. Those are a couple of different ways. Alerts and workflows is another opportunity inside of the Sage world that's already there, which is, every night run a process, email this group this report, or access to this PDF, or access to this BI, and automate that to the executive, or send them an alert with a report to say, the aging of the company is greater than $200,000 when it reaches, when the over 90-day column gets over 200,000, the owner wants to be alerted to know that threshold has been met. Email them the aging report That's something alerts and workflows can do inside of a conditional statement. So rather than receiving the report every day, there's sort of a condition to be met to receive that report.
To send it even, yeah.
Yeah, right. So they're not, I mean, you get a report every day, you kind of get numb, right? It's the same report all the
Exactly. Yeah.
You're not opening it up, but you're kind of looking for that. My feeble mind is the easiest way I put it is most of the time when you're printing a report, you're looking for the total, and then you're looking for some exception to a rule. What's standing out in that report, and that's the highlighter that you break out and you highlight that and pass it on and say this looks weird, right? Or
yeah.
this is something someone's over their budget. Well, rather than doing that, let the conditional statement on the database find that highlighted portion and email you when it happens. So
that way you're not using up a resource. Yep.
Exactly. So it's a great tool
to
manage that process. So, getting the right information out at the right time is easily done within Sage 100 and solutions like workflows. And if someone really wants to get more and more granular, then you look at a BI tool to give that offsite, browser-based remote solution to get that information, and spin it on its head.